Out of the street corners they scream. You knew it was coming. You've been waiting for this for months. Rumour hardened into fear and now they scream at you. The sirens, their hysterical wail tearing through the white noise of the city. And you run. You run to pick up those things that can never be replaced. A picture of them in the days when they still loved you. Your mother's wedding ring. And then you turn to your shelf of games. You only have room for 5. 5 games for Doomsday. 5 Games for Doomsday is a show in which board game personalities are thrust into a cabin in the woods to outrun an oncoming disaster, but can only take 5 of their games with them. But which will they choose? My guest this week brings joy to the lives of children. After having her first ever design immediately published, she's gone on to design games for children of all ages, and with her design partner has been shortlisted for the Spiel des Jahres and the Game of the Year award in Sweden. My guest this week is Liesbeth Bos. Hello.
Hi.
So just to start, how difficult was it for you to find the games to include on this list?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all.
It wasn't hard at all because I decided I recently downsized. I moved to a smaller place and I got rid of a lot of games. And I thought all the games I'm going to bring, except for one, have to come from the collection I have now. And since it's only about 3 shelves of games, it wasn't that hard to pick one. Or to pick these 4, plus a new one.
And so you said you've downsized and you got rid of a lot of games. Are you one of these people who is very protective of your possessions, or was it very easy for you just to dispense with lots of games?
It was super. It was easy. The hardest part was I didn't want to bring them to a thrift store or something, or sell them online, because the thrift store, they just put, tape around it and they don't care. And online, you have to, talk to people about stuff and it takes forever and they have to haggle about the price and stuff. And I didn't want to do that either. So I found a board game club and I just asked if they wanted to have it and they said yes. So they came over and they got 11 moving boxes full of games and hope they enjoy it.
Wow. And was this a greater was this a small part of a greater life laundry? Were you just having an appraisal of all of your possessions and getting rid of them as much as possible?
I got rid of as much as possible.
And how did that feel? Was it very liberating?
Yeah. It's super. I mean, I now know how many mugs I have. I have 5 mugs, and actually one of them should go because 4 is enough. Yeah, I know everything I have. I know where everything is. It's super.
So how do you think you'd survive in this cabin in the woods?
It'll be easy because I sort of live in a cabin in the woods right now. So it'll just, be moved from one place to the next, but it'll be the same, but with more people.
Do you think you'd be able to start fires and chop wood and trap animals and all of that sort of stuff?
Oh, yeah. I love doing that. Well, not sure about the trapping animals. I hope they have cans and a can opener. But, yeah, I love building fires and go to the woods and find dead branches and stuff like that and bring them home and make a fire.
Fantastic. So moving on, your first contact with gaming, what sort of games did you play as a child? How did you get into gaming to begin with?
Well, we've always played games with our family, but, back then there wasn't that much. We had, cards, of course, and Yahtzee and chess, backgammon, Monopoly, Clue, those kind of things. But, yeah, if you don't know that there's more out there, then you don't know what you're missing. And I love playing games. So that's how it started.
Yeah, to what degree is gaming part of family life in Holland? Because I live in Germany and it's very much insinuated within the family. Is it a thing families do in Holland, or do you get on with other stuff?
I think we get on with other stuff more than they do in Germany. But it's. I mean, when I was a child, it wasn't such a big thing, whereas in Germany, it's always been a big thing. It's part of their heritage, I believe. But it's been growing. There have been some publishers who picked out the German games and brought them over here, and now we have more publishers doing that, and so now it's a growing hobby here as well.
And would you say it's still a niche thing in Holland, or is it popular?
I don't know. Because, what I do, I go to these board game groups and play games with them, or I play games with my friends, but those are the people who like and enjoy games, but I don't know in general. I know that's, that globally it's a growing market, so I'm sure it's a growing market in the Netherlands as well. Well, it is, because there's a lot of publishers out here, and they all have survived for a longer time, so it must be growing. But yeah, it's hard to compare that.
And so how did you get into the sort of hobby gaming world? And what were some of the first sort of games that people who listen to this would recognize that you played?
That I played? Well, the first one I think was, the English title. It's by Alan Moon with the elves and the boots going around.
Elfenland.
Elfenland. Yeah. That was one of the first ones I had and bought and played. And then pretty soon after that came Euphrates and Tigris and Euphrates, I think.
Tigris and Euphrates, yeah.
Tigris and Euphrates. So yeah, games like that. Those were like the first games I played, which are more
and
hobby
why?
Games. Why? Because
and how did you come into playing hobby games?
Well, I always enjoyed games. I always played games. Well, then finally somebody in the Netherlands, 99 Games was a publisher who picked up like Catan, Settlers of Catan back then, and Carcassonne, and then they started having their own convention. So that's when I sort of discovered there's a world out there that's bigger than chess and backgammon and Monopoly, thank God. So that's how I discovered that, yeah.
So going on to your first game is quite an old game. It's Black Vienna. Can you give us a brief explanation? Because I hadn't heard of it, and I assume a lot of my listeners won't have.
Oh my God, don't make me explain games, because I'm really bad at that. Because I haven't played it in a long time. I know that it's very basic. It has letters like A, B, C, and it has different combinations of these letters, and you have to figure out which combination you need to find, similar to clues, like who did it in which room with which weapon. But it's, instead of having all these narrative things, it's just letters. But it's just a geeky thing to have. I mean, a friend of mine gave it to me because he figured I collect deduction games, so he gave it to me because it's a rare thing, and we played it a couple of times, and it's really beautiful, and it's shaped like a book, and it has these beautiful components. Yeah, that's why I thought I'd bring it, because I haven't played it in a long time, but I know that I enjoy it every time I played it, so that's why it's coming along.
And so what do you like about deduction games? Because I must confess, for me, because I don't have that kind of mind, I find them endlessly frustrating, and I just don't understand the process. But what is it for you? Why do they appeal to you?
Yeah, your question made me think of that. It's like, I like crime movies, I like crime stories, books. I've always liked these deduction games like Clue and was the other one, Mastermind as a kid. And right now I'm enjoying games like Mr. Jack and Black Vienna. And I find it hard to find a perfect deduction game though, so I only brought 3 to my new house. But I'm always searching for them, and I enjoy it because it gets you in this atmosphere of trying to figure stuff out and you have to ask the right questions, and which question would that be? Where do you get the information? Those kind of things. I like that.
And so with you mentioned Mr. Jack, there's games like Alchemists. So with all these great deduction games, what is it about Black Vienna that makes you want to spend the apocalypse with it?
Like I said, I used to enjoy it. I haven't played it in a while, and it's a beautiful box, and it has beautiful components. So also because it's very blank, maybe if you have all the time in the world, you can make up stories around, all the blank things that are in there, because it's nothing right now. So
let's talk about your start in game design. So you studied in Holland and America, and you didn't study game design. I'm not sure if there are any game design courses, but you studied product design. Why did you go into that area? I studied industrial design. I went into that because it just happened. I like to do artsy kind of things, but I don't like art for art's sake. That sounds wrong if I say it has to have a meaning, because art has a meaning as well. But if I create something, a utility. Yeah, maybe that. If I create something, I want it to do something. I want it to be useful in some sort of way, useful to more people than just be pretty to look at. So maybe that's why industrial design came on my path, and I enjoyed that. And there were a few directions that you could choose from, and the direction I chose was Men and Leisure. And there I sort of got into designing toys, and from there,
evolved into designing games.
So you studied part of the time in America. How did you find your time in America, and how different is America from Holland, especially sort of educationally?
Back then it was more free. It was more, you picked your courses and you took your courses, and people in the Netherlands tend to go home and make their homework and then go back to school. And there people would, hang out in school and work on their projects together, stay in school more, or go to the library and do their homework, whereas nobody at home did anything at home. So that was kind of new to figure that out, how that worked. Other than that, it was for a few months, and I partied a lot, I think, as well.
And do the Americans party more than the Dutch, or is it the other way around?
I don't know. It's just, the situation of me being there and only having had a few courses that I did, and having more free time maybe than the rest, or maybe not the pressure that the rest of them had on them, that I thought, I'm here now, I need to meet people, and I have my roommates, I have my classmates, and who else is in town? So let's go and find out.
So you said in the bio that you sent me that you had your first game that you'd ever designed published very quickly. So firstly, why did you design a game, and what was the game?
Well, that happened around that same time when Catan came out, and I started, enjoying these new types of games. And I was already doing toy design. I was being a freelance toy designer, and I used to go to this toy fair in Nuremberg, in Germany. And then one of my friends said, well, this Klaus Teuber, he's really raking it in. And I said, who's Klaus Teuber? And he said, well, that's the designer of Catan. And then it hit me. It's like, oh, yeah, somebody should design that. Why don't I design a game? Because I'm going to Nuremberg anyway, and I used to go to the game halls in Nuremberg, just, for me personally, not for work. So I designed a game, and I took it to Nuremberg, and I showed it actually to a Dutch publisher that I met in Nuremberg, and he dragged me around and, introduced me to all these people, and it ended up a couple of publishers fighting over it, and I signed with Zoch Verlag in Germany, and that was my first game ever, and maybe my second. But the first time I decided to do a game, and that got published. And that was Captain Clever. And they told me afterwards that it was number 13 on the Spiel des Jahres list, but that didn't mean anything to me at that point at all. And number 13 doesn't mean anything at all either, because only the first 12 got mentioned, but still, it was a pretty good start.
So your first game was a family game. What made you decide to go into that arena rather than adult games? Was this your history as a toy designer? More
or less, because I was designing toys, but at the same time I was also designing educational materials for younger kids. I never really liked text in games. I think the rule book should say it all, and then the rest should, explain itself. I don't like, having a zillion cards with text on it afterwards that explain me more rules. So yeah, that's sort of a natural thing for me. So that's why I designed the game the way it is.
So when did you decide then, so you published one game. When did you decide that being a game designer would be a viable career choice? You could actually make some money from it.
Well, I made that one game, and then I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And as the toy world at that time was more like a city, the game world was more like a village, like a town. Everybody knew everybody, and the moment you step into that, you immediately feel that and recognize that. So I designed another game, and that got published right away as well. It was the Erbsen Princess and the Pea by Haba. So yeah, it evolved, and over time I let go of the toy design and stepped more into the world of designing games, and it was like a shifting thing, and right now it's more game design and not toys anymore at all.
So your next game is very popular amongst people in the solo gaming world, and this is Onirim. Why did you take this? Why are you taking this to the cabin?
Because it's my absolute favorite game in the world, Onirim. I love it. And it's the game, I like to be on my own. I like to spend time by myself. And Onirim as a solo game, especially when you are in a cabin in a stressful situation, that might be something that will be hard to find. So, having this thing that you can do by yourself and be by yourself for a while, that might be a good thing to have. So that's why I picked it. And yeah, because it's one of my favorite games of all time.
So people talk about games, board gaming in general, and when people say, so why do you game? You say, because it's a great social environment. You get to sit around a table with other people and have a conversation and also play a game. What are the benefits of playing a solo game, and why don't you just turn on the PlayStation?
I'm not a video gamer. I get nauseous from that. And also it's the handling of the cards. And even if it's a solo game or not, it doesn't matter. You go on some sort of journey, and with Onirim you go on a little journey by yourself. You go and find the doors in this game. And if it's the app, which I do have as well, and I enjoy as well, then I can't cheat, and I play by myself, so I sometimes cheat if the bad guys come up too often. It's like, hey, now I was almost there. But yeah, I like that. I like shuffling the cards. I like to have that on a table, to see the story in front of me evolve more or less. So yeah, that's why.
And so of a lot of the solo games, the games from the Oniverse, and especially Onirim, get talked about a lot. Why do you think Onirim is so popular?
I don't know, because I don't play a lot of solo games. I played the other ones, but only at a convention, and they didn't grab me the way Onirim did. So I don't know. I can't really compare. I know that I like Onirim, and I haven't played the expansions yet. They're in the box, so I'm thinking when I'm stuck there in the cabin, I'm going to explore those.
So you don't just design games on your own. You have a design partner that you've designed a lot of games with. How did you meet?
We met at the designers party. The German Designers Association has a party every year in Nuremberg, it is? Yeah. This one was in Nuremberg anyway. And we met there, and we sat at the table with our partners at that time. Well, she's still married. And we were talking about game design, and we were complaining about the same things, because sometimes you come up with a mechanism and you just want to, try it out real quick. And we would ask our partners, like, okay, I have this really great idea. Do you want to give it a try? Their responses were always the same. It's like, what age group is this for? And we're like, who cares? How many people is this for? We're like, who cares? We just want to know if the mechanism works and then move on. So we recognized it in each other, and we laughed, and we were like, oh, we should get together and do stuff. But then it took a few years before I was ready for that, because I was scared to share my ideas. Well, she was too in a way, but not as scared as I was. So, but
and why were you scared? Why were you scared to share your ideas?
I was scared that I would show her something, and I don't know. It seems so stupid now to think about it. But I was scared that I would show her things, and we would make a game out of it that was originally more my idea than hers, maybe, or the other way around, or that she would show me something that was her idea that would get stuck in my head, and I could not make a game out of. Something like that.
And so what roles do you have in the partnership? Do you have sort of established things that you're stronger at, things that she's stronger at, or is it really a mixed bag when it comes to designing together?
The designing part is I think really 50-50. It depends, because we have a few projects going, and there's some projects that she likes more than I like them, or the other way around. So we both have our babies, sort of, so to speak, but we both love all our kids. So it doesn't really matter, but the first times when we were going to conventions together, we had this like good cop, bad cop roles, and I was the bad cop because I can be more strict, and I can be more, it's like, no, I don't want to do that, so we're not going to do that. And she's more like, yeah, maybe we consider it. So we had this thing that I would, be really tough, and when we saw that things would go wrong, then she would soothe it over, and that seemed to work.
And are you still designing games together to this day?
Oh yeah, I'm doing more and more with her and less by myself.
And what are the benefits and drawbacks of working in a partnership?
The drawbacks is you have to split everything 50-50. Although one publisher once offered us 58% for one designer and 50% for the other. So we're like, yeah, but I want a 58%. But that the split in income is, of course, the thing you have to deal with. But the benefits is it's such an accelerator to work together. Like before, I would sit with something and I was like, okay, what if I change the faces on the die, and what if I do this, and what if I do that? And with her, it's like, okay, let's get rid of the dice and see what happens next, or let's get rid of this and see what happens next. We make bigger steps, and that just works. That's just awesome.
Does the other person help you realize that the decisions you make are right or wrong? Yes, because you have to now tell the other person why you do that, why you think this or that is right or wrong. You have to really express yourself that way. And by doing that, by having to do that, you cannot just muddle. You have to, make really good decisions and stand behind your decisions. And do you ever have situations where you just don't agree, or is it quite an amicable partnership? Well, when we don't agree, it's usually on very, very detailed things, and then we're just like, okay, let's just give it a try. Why do you think this works, and why do you think it doesn't? And then we're, going to test it, and then we'll see if one of us was right or wrong, and then we'll just go with whatever went well. And I guess the benefits of gaming is that it's a very testable thing, right? You have an idea, you put it in front of people, and if they're bored, that tells you whether it's right or wrong, I guess. Yes. We have one game, and that's our biggest hit this Nuremberg. People were fighting over that game, and that's like a game that we designed as a dessert kind of thing. We always, we have these every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, we sit together for 2 days and we just work on our games. And then when we're really tired, at the end of the day, we're like, okay, let's do Nachtisch. That's what she calls it. It's like dessert. So we came up with this game for dessert, and I forgot your question. I'm sorry. No, it was just I was saying that games are very testable. So it's not like if you're working on a book together and you could say, well, I like the sentence and I don't like the sentence. You can put it in front of people and they go, this works or it doesn't, right? I get where I was going with this. It's like this game she tested over New Year's Eve with her friends, and she called me up the next day and she's like, nobody touched their phone. And that's like the best thing ever. If nobody touches their phone, it's like, and they wanted to play it over and over again. So yeah, then you have something good. It's the new standard if nobody touches their phone. And when is this game coming out? Soon. Can't say anything more. Soonish. This year. It's a deduction game. You don't like that. No, it's not a deduction game, but finding out when it comes out is. Yeah, exactly. You've got nothing to worry about. There's no chance I'll be able to work it out. So your next game is another game that begins with ON, but this one's an abstract strategy game. This is Onitama. And when you sent me a description of it, you said that it gives you the feeling of chess, but it gets to the good stuff faster. What does that mean? What's the good stuff? The good stuff. With chess, I used to play chess with my dad a lot. And he was very, very thinky. He would think about 5-6 rounds ahead. What if she does this? What if I do that? And I'm like, oh, come on. I have more things to do in my life than sit here and play chess. I'm very impatient. But I love chess. I love playing chess. I love the way the game works. But I don't like the setup that, when everybody's in a straight line, chess becomes more interesting halfway through the game. And I think Onitama does that. You get to that part faster. Although with Onitama, at first, everybody's in the same line as well. And that's the part that I don't enjoy in Onitama either. Just I want it to be in the middle and then kill. So what would you say to people who say, well, abstract games are just boring and dry and they don't do anything for you? What would be your defense of the abstract game? It's up to the people, of course, what you like and what you don't like, but they're certainly not boring. There's so much going on, and if you don't like something as thinky as Onitama, and it's not even that thinky at all, you can look at maybe the Gigami games, who are a lot easier and faster to play, have easy rules as well. Then there's the Gibbs line, who is beautifully designed and has beautiful components done by Chris Firm. Yeah, it doesn't give you the narrative. It doesn't give you that, but it gives you the enjoyment of
thinking about your next move, because you usually have very limited options, and the other person usually has the same options you have, so you can think about those too. So yeah, that's what I like about abstract games.
And do abstract games influence your designs in any way?
Yeah, I saw this question come up, and I thought no, and then maybe yes, because everything always influences you. For example, the way the cards move in Onitama is just brilliant. And that is something that, gets into your head, and maybe something that will in some way or form pop up sometimes in a game. I don't know. And
so moving on then to games and children, what do you think the act of play does for children? What does playing games give them?
Well, it teaches them things. It teaches them to follow the rules and not follow the rules. It teaches them to be social in a way. It's okay to lose. You may enjoy that you win. Those kind of things. It's a very social thing. So that's good for them to do, I think.
And why? I think I've kind of asked you this before, but if you give me a bit more of an explanation, why do you design games for children? Is it purely an idea that it's easier to sell them, or are you trying to do something? Are you trying to offer something to kids?
I'm not sure if they're easier to sell. I'm very sure they're harder to test than anything else in the world, because as soon as you have the perfect test kit, in 3 months he's useless because he's he's got a different age. It just happened that way, and it's because I don't like to use text that you get into that corner. But designing for kids is really, really hard, because the games for kids should nowadays not be longer than 5 to 7 minutes. But it should not be the next memo game. It should not be this. It should not be that. Parents should be involved and not bored. Parents should be not take too long to learn the rules. Everything should be very easy and simple and fun, and have a footprint on the table. So there's a lot of things going on designing a game for children. Sounds very easy. It's like, oh, they're kids, so just go do it. But it's hard.
You talked about playtesting. How do you playtest your games? Where do you find the kids to playtest the games with?
We go to schools.
And do you find that, a lot of people talk about playtesting and techniques of playtesting and whether to directly ask the playtesters afterwards and all of this. Do you find that children give you good feedback? Do you find that children are more honest than adults, or is that not the case?
They are very honest. The problem is with testing in schools, you really have to involve the teachers and the school in that. You have to ask them to give you like a separate room away from the rest, away from all the other things that kids can do. You need to have kids who are focused. So yeah, that's very hard. But once you have kids that are really focused, then they give you really good feedback, and you ask them simple questions. So did you like the game? Of course, they played the game. They were out of the class. You didn't have to do the normal thing. So yeah, they liked it. They enjoyed it. But then it's like, would you want to play again? No. Okay. So what didn't you enjoy about the game? And then usually they tell you stuff. And then they go beyond. They tell you how to improve it. And then, they shoot for the moon. And you have to, read between the lines. What's good, what's not good, what will work next time and what not. But next time you go with the same game to the same kids, they don't want to play your new rules. They want to play it like you had it before. So that's really hard to do. You have to find new kids.
And so do you think that society has a negative attitude to play among adults? Because it's, you have this idea of, you have to put away childish things after a while. Do you think as adults, we forget how to play? Yeah,
I think we do. I'm not sure if I did. I try to play. I try to have fun as much as I can. But yeah, sometimes a lot of grown-up stuff gets in the way. We have, jobs and mortgages and cars, and we have to take our kids to dentist appointments and stuff like that. So yeah, freeing time to just play is hard to do sometimes. But once you do it, don't sit on the couch and watch TV, but go out and find a game group, or play games with your family, then it's really enjoyable, and you remember that more than, oh, remember that day that I watched TV, because nobody remembers that. You remember the fun you had playing a game, or the fun you had hiking through the woods, those kind of things.
And so what can kids teach us about being adults? What have we forgotten as adults that we should hold on to? Oh,
that was a good question. And that's think without limits. That's the absolute thing that kids do. They think without limits. Like the other day, I was biking up the hill with my son, and he was asking me about my favorite car, what it should look like. And I asked him the same question, and all the way up, and he hates to bike up the hill, but all the way up, he designed this car in his head, and he was telling me about it, and then solving so many problems on the way, and coming up with so many crazy stuff for his car that I thought, wow, this is, if you think without limits, this is so cool. And that's what kids do, and that's what we don't do. We like, yeah, but a car should have wheels, Why? Kids don't think that way.
And so do you think the great creative people throughout history have managed to hold on to that aspect, to not limit their thinking?
I really don't know, because you need both. You need the people who limit that and give you the options and the boundaries. And actually, game design is all about limits and boundaries, because you need to set rules. Like, for example, with the abstract games, you cannot go all over the board. No, you can only move a certain amount of spaces. And what do you do with that? So that's I think you need both. But sometimes we forget to let go a little bit.
So your next game is a relatively new one, not as new as your last game, but this is Role Player. So why are you taking this one to the cabin?
Role Player. This one was when I first heard about these 5 games that I had to take to the cabin, I thought I need a game with a lot of dice, because I'm a game designer and I can fake everything else. I can make cards and I can make a board using whatever is around, but I cannot fake dice. I need dice, so I need to bring a game with a lot of dice. Couldn't think of a really good game, and then I thought, Role Player, of course, because I came across this game last year, and I became an agent for Thunderworks Games, trying to localize this game for the European market, or for the market outside of the US. And ever since I got the game, I've been playing it a lot, and I just love it to pieces. It's just beautiful, and it's not a game I would usually pick out or I would usually play, because I like games that are short, that are like 30-minute stops. So Role Player, being a 60 to 90-minute game, is unique for me to like, and even to enjoy playing for that amount of time and over again.
And do you have any particular class that you like to choose? Any particular
I'm sure
any particular race?
If it's free, I'm usually the human, because that's the lightest card or the lightest tableau or out there. And anything else is whatever comes up. I enjoy it for puzzliness, trying to score the highest or the most points, and trying to, beat the others to that. Whereas, like my daughter, she plays it the same way. And my daughter, that's surprisingly, like before Role Player, her favorite game was something like Halligalli. So, going from that to Role Player is like, wow, I did something good. Credits for mom. And my son, for example, he really, he picks out who he wants to be, and he wants to be the barbarian, and then he doesn't want to buy certain weapons because they don't match with his idea of what the barbarian should look like and what his backstory is, and he really goes into the narrative of things. So that's what makes this game so great for everybody. It's like, you can go for the ultimate score, you can go for the ultimate character, or there's something in it for everybody.
And I mean, do you have a history with D&D or anything like this, or was this just simply a coincidence that you ended up working with this company, and so this game came into your possession?
It's not a coincidence, because I picked it out as being a game I was really interested in, and a company I was really interested in working for, so that was not a coincidence. But I do not have a D&D background. I've tried a few times playing Dungeons and Dragons, maybe a decade ago. Didn't really get it. Then recently I started again with my son, and we're having a lot of fun with it, but we're doing it wrong, I'm sure. But yeah, it's something I'm interested in, and I'm trying to find out how to get into that at a certain point if I have more time. there we go. More time.
So where are you now in your life? So you told me that you made a slight career change. What is that?
Well, I used to be, and I still am, a game designer, but I don't want to design just games. I wanted to do something else, and then I thought, well, if I go out here in, the muggle world, so to speak, and find a real job, then they ask me, what have you been doing? And it's like, designing games. Who do you know? Well, designers, publishers, distributors. So I thought, well, if I am going to go for a career change, it has to be in the industry, because I cannot imagine myself not being there. So I spoke to a lot of people in the industry about what it could be, what I can do, and what the things were that make me unique in a way. And that's like, okay, I do speak German, I do speak English, I know the industry globally pretty good. So how about going to the US and try and find smaller publishers and see if I can do something for them over here? And that's what I've been doing.
And so what have you got in terms of games coming out in the next 12 months, 18 months?
For me as a designer?
Yeah.
That's confidential.
So nothing's been announced yet, so everything is still under lock and key?
No, there's a game coming out by me and my co-designer. It's called Whoop Whoop. It's a little, it's a sequel to the nomination Game of the Year, or Children's Game of the Year game called Wii U, published by Martinex. It's a Finnish publisher. And it's a little car, and the box becomes a car, and the car is part of the game. And Wii U is a fire truck, and Whoop is a police car. And that's coming out by the end of the year. There's another game coming out. Work title is Cat and Mice. Cat and Mice by Step Puzzle from Russia. That's coming out in March. And then there's a game coming out by me and my co-designer somewhere this year. And just before this interview, I was reading the agreement for that, so we still have to sign it. So
there's conservatively 3 coming out in the next year.
As far as I know, because this question surprised me, and I never know this usually. It's not that there are tons of games coming out, but I'm usually not aware of it. I'm usually working on the things like getting the agreement out of the door, or working on games that we want to pitch, or games that we're trying to localize, but not on the current things.
And so you said to me in the notes that you sent me that you're scared to play your own games.
Right.
What does that mean, and why is that?
Well, because I have played it when it was a prototype, and then it goes to the publisher, and sometimes it takes a year, 2 years before it comes out. And then when you get it back, in the meantime, you get some questions from the publisher about some rule changes, and you go back and forth on that, and then that gets approved by the publisher and me, and then you end up with a game that's almost like your prototype, but has a slight change. And when the game gets in, I wonder if, was it good at all? And what if I play it and I don't like it? How are other people supposed to like it? So I don't know. I'm really scared to do that. So like the other day, I played a game with my daughter. That's an older game. I don't know. It came out in 2006 or so. I forgot. 2008. We played it for the first time, and she's like, "Oh, Mom, this is really good. Let's play again." And I was like, "Whew." So I don't know. I'm scared to do that.
And so your last game is quite a brave choice, considering that you've got to spend the foreseeable future with it, because you haven't actually played the game. But this is Stuffed Fables.
Right.
Why did you choose this one if you haven't played it?
Like I said, I was in Nuremberg, and I always ask people in the booths when I have time, what do you think is the best game you have here, and why do you love it? And this guy was just all over the moon with Stuffed Fables. Like, he was telling me about it, and he loved it, and he was showing me the miniatures, and then I looked it up on the Dice Tower, I think, but scrolled through it a little bit to see if I would add it to this list, and I thought, yeah, that sounds cool. The guy from Asmodee that showed it to me said that there were like 144 pages or 144 stories you could play. So I'm thinking, okay, so here we have like a storybook. I like the idea of that a little girl sleeps in her own room for the first time, and her stuffed animals have to protect her from, I don't know, evil nightmares or whatever. I don't even know what it's about, really. But I like that idea, and I like the stuff that comes with it. And so even if the game ends up not getting played or not being liked, we still have the miniatures from that game, and we have the dice from Role Player, so we have stuff to play with and make up our own games with, I think. That's why Stuffed Fables made the list.
Fantastic. So, one last question. So you're driving to the cabin, and on the way, the car skids and the back door flies open. 4 of the games fly out of the car, down a ravine, into a river, and are swept away forever. Which is the game that you hope is sitting on the back seat of the car?
Well, I'm thinking if I'm going to be stuck with all these people in a cabin, then the best thing they can have is a sane me. And for that, I need Onirim. That should be there. Perfect. So if people want to get hold of you or see what you're up to or buy some of your games, how can they do that? Oh, buy my games. That would be good. But you have to go to different online stores for that. So you can find me on Board Game Geek, just, as me, Liesbeth Bos, or on Twitter at LiesbethNL, or Instagram, it's Liesbeth Bos Game. I think those are the easiest way to reach out to me. If you want to buy a game, find it online and put it in a basket and pay. Fantastic. Well, Liesbeth Bos, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if you want to suggest a guest, or if you want to say something nice about the show, or if you want to say something horrible about the show, you can contact me on @5gamesfordoomsday on Twitter, or you can send me an email at 5gamesfordoomsday@gmail.com. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/5G4D. Any amount really helps me produce the show and will help me in the future to make the show better. And if I haven't had to hop on my jet ski to escape the skin-flaying mandrills and the sentient helicopters, I'll see you in 2 weeks for another 5 Games for Doomsday.